next segment of today's podcast where I want to dive into the NFL's My Cause, My Cleats program. So this initiative allows players to wear customized cleats, highlighting charitable organizations or causes that they themselves personally support. And it's been a creative way for athletes to use their platform to raise awareness and funds for issues that matter to them. Now, for some background, this program began back in 2016, and in partnership with Raise this year, which is a philanthropic platform led by one of the NFL's first openly gay players, more about why that's pertinent in a moment, players can now amplify their own causes even more effectively. So recently, over the last few weeks, the program sparked controversy when a player chose to highlight as his organization of choice, the Fellowship of Christian Athletes, also known as FCA. So for a little bit of context, FCA is a faith-based organization that focuses on empowering athletes through Christianity. And while its primary mission is not centered on human sexuality, their platform does promote what it calls, quote, traditional marriage, aligning with conservative Christian views on marriage and family. So some critics have labeled FCA as an anti-gay organization due to these stances, though that isn't the primary focus of its mission, which I think is important. It's not an organization that's establishing policy. So this decision by the player, who did not display any anti-gay messaging on his cleats, was met with backlash, particularly from pro-LGBTQ organizations, because the organization that he did choose was affiliated with what many label as anti-gay stances. Critics condemned even the NFL for allowing the partnership, but they remained silent about the league's collaboration with Raise, which was what I mentioned earlier, an organization that's aligned with LGBTQ advocacy. So this brings us to the heart of the debate and dilemma today in this segment. Why is it so difficult for people to tolerate others' choices when it comes to supporting causes? The program is called My Cleats, My Cause. Not your cleats, not your cause, not the cause that you think I should support, not the cause that you want me to support, but my cleats, my cause. But this uproar shows how contentious public sponsorships have become. So we must ask ourselves, is it fair to hold someone accountable for every belief, policy, or platform idea of an organization that they support? Is that where we're going with this? Because that's the logical conclusion of criticizing players' choice. Imagine this scenario for just a second. You go to a burger joint and you buy a meal. Now, by doing so, are you endorsing every stance that company, the burger joint, has ever taken? Well, you're doing business with them. You didn't have to eat there. You chose to eat there. So are you morally bound to be informed about every moral decision, principle, or belief of that organization? And going a little further, must you know where the beef comes from? What about the political affiliation of their suppliers, the people who provide them the ketchup, mustard, the silverware, their furniture? Do you have to also investigate the public platform of all of those organizations as well that have aligned themselves with the burger joint with whom you did business when you bought the meal? What about the moral standing of the restaurant's owners? Am I required to know that and be in alignment with it before I make a purchase? Well, of course not. So if we don't follow this in our own personal ways of doing business, it's curious why we often impose this impossible standard on public figures when they align with a cause. As I said earlier, the NFL is partnering with Raise, and that did not cause an uproar among conservative fans, just as the FCA's inclusion should not spark outrage among progressives. And it was a bit surprising to see this pop up, because this type of overly controlling behavior is what I expect from Republicans. This is what I expect from white evangelicals. This is what I expect from Christian conservatives who love to police and control other people's behavior. This just goes to show you that the right doesn't have a monopoly on this type of mindset. You can find it also in the progressive ranks. So just as Raise didn't cause an uproar, the FCA's inclusion shouldn't spark an outrage among progressives. Yet this selective outrage continues. Why? Well, because people tend to support freedom of expression that aligns with their own values. As long as somebody is saying and doing what you want them to say, you believe in liberty. You believe in freedom of expression. But the moment somebody says something you don't like, the moment somebody gets out of line, the moment somebody has an opposing view, then you want to ban them, you want to shut them down, and you want others to stop cooperating with them. Here's the uncomfortable truth. If we call for bans and boycotts against causes we dislike, we're setting a precedent for the same treatment toward the causes that we like. Now, as a society, we need to learn tolerance, which does not necessarily mean agreement, but the willingness to let people express themselves without interference. And it's a value that this country says it embraces, but our actions many times betray what we say. Now, here is what one pro-LGBTQ organization commented, quote, "We look forward to the day when the FCA changes its awful anti-LGBTQ policies, or the day when the NFL bans the organization from its fundraising efforts," unquote. Ban? You want them to be banned? And it's ironic that this call to ban others, despite the fact that many LGBTQ groups themselves have fought against bans on their own platforms for decades. They have fought against being banned, and now those who have fought against being banned are calling for others to be banned. We see this, forgetting the struggles that they have gone through. Why not let the strength of your ideas prevail instead of resorting to silencing the opposition and people you don't like? But let's take even a further step back, because ultimately this isn't about FCA or race. It isn't about whether you think gay rights are right or wrong. That's not what this discussion is about. It's about whether as a society we can handle the existence of conflicting ideas. And I submit to you that we cannot. And it's something that I experience even on this podcast as I talk about race, religion, and politics. It just irks people that you say and believe certain things and they can't help themselves. Now, if the NFL, a league with a checkered history itself on issues like racism, domestic violence, and player safety, they are not without fault. If the NFL can provide a platform for diverse voices through a program called My Cleats, My Cause, and each player can have his own cleats and his own cause, then maybe we should reflect that same level of openness. After all, the league is far from perfect. So you want the NFL to ban FCA, but why are you even considering doing business with the NFL when they have so many skeletons in their own social closet? Why not ban them? Instead of demanding conformity, we should embrace the diversity of thought and belief that programs like this represent. Let the players choose the causes that resonate with them, even if those causes don't align with you and your values. Let organizations like Raise and FCA coexist, even if they seem diametrically opposed to one another. Freedom of expression can sometimes be a messy topic, but it's also foundational to what we think is a truly free society. And ultimately what matters is the good that these players and organizations are doing. They're raising awareness and funds for meaningful causes, and millions of dollars donated and lives impacted through this program far outweigh this minor controversy. So let's remember that not every partnership or cause is an endorsement of every single belief that an organization holds. We see this happening in the political world. You have white evangelicals who want to assign every idea on the Democratic Party platform to anybody who votes for any Democrat anywhere in the country. It's crazy. But then we take all of the craziness and downright lies in the Republican Party, and they don't want all of that applied to them just because they voted for Trump. But they want to apply everything about the Democrat Party to anybody that votes for Democrats. So folks, we need to separate a single action from a complete endorsement of an organization. Just as we aren't defined by every aspect of the groups we associate with, players aren't bound to the entirety of an organization's platform just because they support its mission. So whether it's FCA, Raise, My Cleats, My Cause represents the best of what the NFL can do, which is to empower players to use their platforms for good. So let's ease up on the outrage, give people space to support the causes that matter to them, because ultimately, isn't that what freedom and living in an open and free society is all about?